if you do it right, it should mean that it's just a really simple step up when it does come to that transition from trainee wealth manager to advisor. I work with a team to coordinate the process of taking a client from day one to being a long-term sort of client for Hoxton and the team.
Now, when you realistically think about it, right, if you're going to sit down and become a trainee wealth manager, the mindset needs to be that it's not going to happen overnight. There is a journey that you're going to go on, right? You can't just do your qualifications to become a financial planner.
And I said from day one, when I do pass that exam, I have no desire to step up straight away. And, if you've got that mindset, where you've got that desire that, you want to build a long-lasting career for, yourself, family, you're in a very, very good position.
Do you know roughly what the earning potential someone could have in year 1, year 2, year 3 would be in a position like the trainee wealth manager role?
It's down to you. I mean, if you were to throw a figure out there.
Oliver, thanks so much for joining me today on the Hoxton Life Podcast. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for having us. How are you?
I'm all right. Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. Very, very good.
Good.
It's a bit cooler in here now. Winter's starting to kick in over in Dubai. When I was filming up here in the summer, it was like an oven.
I can imagine.
So now it seems a bit cooler. How are you you've obviously been in Dubai for a little while now then, so you've experienced winter?
Yeah, that's right. I've been here 3 years now,
Yep.
so a little bit of time. We've seen winter, summer, everything in between. Most of the days it's sunny.
Yeah.
But I generally don't go home a lot. So a lot of the guys in the office do go home at Christmas, spend a bit of time working from home. I actually quite enjoy the summers over here. It's a lot quieter. Beaches are nice and quiet, so it's not too bad. I've seen it all.
Yeah, very nice. Do you know what?
Yeah.
We had a bit of a conversation, didn't we, off camera, and you talked about some of the things you get up to in Dubai. Let's start with that then, because what do you get up to in your spare time in Dubai then?
Yeah, no, I mean, Dubai's diverse. Like, a lot of people see Dubai for going out, partying, but there's a totally different side to Dubai. And, I enjoy getting up, 6:30, go for a surf. If the conditions are good, very rare, but there's a lot to do out here. Obviously, we're inundated for golf courses. We've got championship golf courses everywhere. And my brother has just moved out here as well. He's a golfer. So, again, getting a little bit more into the golf scene. And honestly, just being outdoors. I love it. That's one thing I miss in the UK. And one of the reasons I've lived overseas for quite a few years now is the weather. It restricts you. Whereas here, we've got sun 365 days a year and we can do what we want. It's lovely. It's insane. So cool.
Fantastic. I'm going to have to ask you about surfing. Whereabouts in Dubai then do you go surfing and how often?
There's not a lot of places. I lived overseas previously where surfing was a thing we could do every day. Here we only see it in the winter. So we get a little bit more of a surf coming in winter months. And then also they've just opened up in Abu Dhabi, something called Surf Abu Dhabi. Really cool. Yeah. Absolutely insane, that place. Yeah, really cool.
Yeah, in Bristol we've got one. And I went down there. The Boars, isn't it? And you've got like the not fake waves, they make waves in there.
Yeah, that's it.
Inland Surf Centre, they call it.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, we had one in Snowdonia, but this one's, I think it's the biggest in the world. Everything is out here. So
Wasn't it a Kelly Slater?
Yeah, it is actually, yeah. So they've got a number of different waves. Top wave's Kelly's wave with an actual barrel in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's quite incredible, to be fair.
You're working in a trainee wealth manager role, which is a business developer type position within Hoxton.
Yeah, that's right.
We'll get into that in a minute. But you had a bit of an unconventional sort of early career, right? You did different types of things before you ended up working here at Hoxton Wealth, one of them being a helicopter pilot. Tell us a little bit about that.
It's a little bit different. It was something that I'd always wanted to do from a kid. I mean, I've got photos, I think my mum sent me years ago, where I was sat in a helicopter. And it was just one of those childhood things where it was like, what do you want to do when you're older? Always a helicopter pilot. So when I left school, uni just was not something I wanted to do. It's never sort of a desire of mine to go to uni. And I went out to Australia, sort of scouted out the different places that we could possibly look to fly over there. And then about a year later, at the age of 19, moved to Sydney. Did 3 years in Sydney, training, and then about a year and a half after that, flying for the company over Sydney Harbour. And it's one of those where it just all sort of fell into place, and was quite lucky that we got the opportunity to sort of fly out there, which was obviously a very, very special place to fly over the harbour in Sydney.
So that was what you were doing day in, day out, just like flying tourists around, or?
Yeah, that's right, yes. I mean, there was a mix. I mean, predominantly part of the company was tourist flying, but we did a lot with photography guys, coming out to Sydney to do sort of certain photography sort of fields. We had quite an interesting trip planned, which unfortunately COVID put a stop to it. So we had the Ferrari Formula One team coming out to fly with us all. So we're taking all 5 helicopters out. There's a secret racetrack up in Sydney. It was a guy who has a collection of Ferraris, somehow lost his license. We won't go into that. And basically set up this racetrack, and it became a little bit of a world famous secret racetrack in the racing world. And we were due to take all the team up there. Unfortunately, COVID put a stop to that. But you'd see some interesting people for sure.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I've always found that entrepreneurial individuals, people that push themselves that little bit further, tend to be really good working in business developer roles. They have that kind of, what I like to say, intrapreneurial spirit. So they'll come into a business and they will adapt to it, but from their entrepreneurial ways, but in intrapreneurial way. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Tell us a little bit about, but I always find as well, like people that have that mindset tend to do quite well.
Yeah.
Right? We'll kind of get into that, the reasons behind that. But tell us a little bit about your background. It goes far back as like your first ever job, because I think the types of people that we want to attract here to Hoxton are people that have a strong work ethic and have been exposed to having to work.
Yeah.
I think at quite an early age, I was putting pins up. I was, do you know what? I used to pick up wheelbarrows full of manure, horse manure, out near where I lived in the countryside. And I used to get like £5 a bag of like manure that I'd have to pick it all up. So I was doing my mum a favour doing that. And then I'd go and sell the bags of manure because people obviously wanted it for their garden. So I found it, I was, washing cars or putting pins up down the local skittle alley.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, I worked at Safeway cleaning at 4 a.m. when I was like 15 years old, like a supermarket cleaning it. Yeah. I always found ways to make money. Like, are you similar?
100%. I mean, but funny story actually. I mean, we come from sort of, quite sort of a family background where it's quite entrepreneurial. We had, it was a funny story actually. So my mum always used to try and teach sort of the value of money, let's say, because, I think that is quite a big thing. And I think it does sort of lead down to the entrepreneurial side. I'd go into a shop, sounds a little bit silly, but I'd go into a shop at age of sort of, 7, 8, 9, whatever it was. And I'd want a certain sweet, let's say, as you do when you're a kid. And I'd only get given, let's say, 80p, but the sweet I wanted was £1. So I'd either have to get the sweet I didn't want or try and speak to the guy and say, look, could we try and let me have this sweet? So I think it comes from a young age that, I've just been taught sort of, to, speak to people in a way where, you can try and sort of have that conversation with them in a way and sort of build a relationship with them. So then it was like the fact that when we used to go back there, it's like, oh, it's the guy with the 80p, not the pound. And then, leading back to sort of more recent times, in any role I've had, it's always had a sort of client-facing aspect to it, let's say. Even going back to helicopters, although that was just solely flying helicopters, we'd always have a side where, we were speaking to clients, trying to help them to sort of, understand sort of, where we could sort of better enhance their experience, let's say. And I think that leads going back to Hoxton as well.
So tell us a little bit about then what you're doing at Hoxton so those listening can understand the job role that you're doing. And then we'll get into a bit of detail about mindset, what's required to do the job successfully, because you are a real success in this position and you're loving it, right?
Yeah, no, I love it. Yeah, first and foremost, I absolutely love the role. So, I mean, I've been in Hoxton for 3 years January now, so leading up to 3 years. I mean, the title of my role is basically call it business coordinator. So I work with a team to coordinate the process of taking a client from day one to being a long-term sort of client for Hoxton and the team. We've just took on a new role. So new role is, call it a team leader. And the team leader role is basically to sort of help people in similar positions to myself and to sort of, progress in their career pathway, basically. I mean, a day-to-day of our role, it's varied. It's very, very varied. A lot of it is reaching out to clients, speaking to prospects, people that we're, trying to sort of, see if we can help assist them in regards to services that we offer. And then also quite a large proportion of my day now is helping sort of other people in my role to try and progress where they want to get for their sort of career.
So tell us a little bit about that, because the business coordinator role is also like a trainee wealth manager position. So if someone wants to come into our business and they wanted to become a financial planner, we wouldn't start them, oh, you've done your level 4 qualifications, so let's dump you in front of some clients.
Yeah, of course.
It doesn't work like that. We within Hoxton, which I think is really, really the right thing to do, right? Because in the UK, a lot of people that want to become financial planners don't actually have any solid experience of building relationships, prospecting, business development, whatever you want to call it, the building of those client relationships, having those kind of uncomfortable conversations where you have to educate somebody, find a solution to some of the problems that they have through communication, through reaching out to people, whether that's the leads that are coming inbound or the existing clients where you're asking for referrals, all the great things that we do incredibly well, but we need somebody turning the stones over to develop those new opportunities, right?
Yeah, of course.
Just tell us a little bit about that side of the business, because when you're coming in as a trainee wealth manager, we focus on that area. Yeah. Let's give somebody an idea of what to expect, what to expect in that role if they're coming in as a trainee wealth manager or a business developer.
Yeah, it's right. So, I mean, I think most people who are in my role of call it trainee wealth manager, do have the long-term career aspect of wanting to become, advisor and more. But like you say, it starts at ground one, which is trainee wealth manager, and, coming in from day one to sort of, really understand the ins and outs of the company. I mean, I think it is the best way to become an advisor. The reason for that, quite simply, is you learn everything on the job. It's like an apprenticeship.
Yeah.
A lot of sort of what I've done in the past, going back to helicopters, was very much hands-on learning on the job. You'd have your dual controls for your helicopter, you'd have your instructor, you'd have yourself, and you'd learn on the job. And it's a little bit like that, because I work beside Jaap Hall. He's my advisor, my mentor, let's call it. And, I work beside him to really sort of understand that role. I mean, going back to sort of what I do day to day, I mean, trainee wealth manager, it encompasses everything I think of what an advisor does, but working sort of just alongside them to really grow and understand that over a sort of a period of time. And if you do it right, it should mean that it's just a really simple step up when it does come to that transition from trainee wealth manager to advisor. I mean, one of the guys, Ravi, I've seen him from day one when I came into the company where he was within my role. I think he's done it really well. He's not rushed, like you say. He's took his time. He's really sort of built his sort of, let's say, career prospect in regards to the business development role, in regards to himself now. But then when it comes to him as an advisor, it was just such an easy transition. It was basically doing the same, but just a different role name in a way.
And I'm spending some time with Ravi on the podcast quite soon, actually, this afternoon, and we're going to talk about his journey. But, it wasn't an overnight success. It's taken him sort of nearly 4 to 5 years for him to feel confident enough to make that transition into being a financial planner and going on to what we call the pathway, which is that is a trainee financial planner job role. So trainee wealth manager into trainee financial planner. But the transition that he's made and how quickly he's been a success is amazing.
Incredible.
It's incredible.
Yeah,
I sat down with him, he spoke to me about his performance and what he has delivered in respect of assets under management, client advice, fees coming into the business is phenomenal of what he's achieved within a very short period of time.
Yeah.
Now, when you realistically think about it, right, if you're going to sit down and become a trainee wealth manager, you say, right, like you said, an apprenticeship, right?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
The mindset needs to be that it's not going to happen overnight. There is a journey that you're going to go on, right? And in the beginning, it's going to be pretty tough because you're going to have to build habits, the right mindset, and you're going to have to probably step outside of your comfort zone on a regular basis, right?
Of course.
It's tough.
Yeah.
You're going to have to learn the processes and the procedures and all those typical things that go along with it. And there'll be this upward trend at some point where all that hard work you put in the beginning starts to pay dividends in year 3, 4, 5, doesn't it? And now we're seeing it within that business. Those people that are transitioning through that trainee wealth manager role into financial planner roles, the earnings for them, based on the experience and the hard work and the graph, or what I like to call the reps that they put in those early stages, you're seeing they're reaping the rewards now. And that's what I want people to understand in this. Like, you can't just do your qualifications and become a financial planner.
Yeah, of course. No, that's right. I mean, like you say, I'm currently studying for my Series 65 exam. And I've said from day one, when I do pass that exam, I have no desire to step up straight away because, like you say, it just would not make sense. I would not be ready to do so. It's not a fact of just having that knowledge and stepping up. It's really understanding the role. And I think that's, like you say, when you do excel, because it comes such sort of an easy transition by having that sort of, nice, solid process in place. But, like you say, I think Hoxton has got a really good process for it, through the likes of, people coming into sort of, a junior role in our position, progressing into more so the junior advisor role, And then, of course, then transition into, call it, fully fledged advisors.
Okay. Someone's listening to this now and we want to kind of educate them on how best to prepare and what to expect. Let's look at mindset. Let's look at the traits and things like that you think are required to be a great business developer. Let's educate them around that.
Yeah, I mean, I think sort of, it does come down, like, to say quite simply, mindset. I think that is something really hard to teach. It comes down to you as a person. And, if you've got that mindset where you've got that desire that, you want to build a long-lasting career for, yourself, family, you're in a very, very good position. But like I say, it is not easy. It's really not. But then if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. And it's one of those where when it does pay off, it's very, very, it's one of those things where you look back and you go, wow, okay, this has really sort of, worked well for me. And it's nice to see, because you've helped a lot of people, clients, and also as well, not just that, you are building, as I say, a really long lasting career. It's not that, you're going into a certain role and you're staying within that role for a year and, there's a limit to where you can get to. It's something that you can keep building and building and building. And, the sky's the limit when it does come to it, really.
Fantastic. And, a lot of people are interested in what they can earn as well. When they go into like a trainee role, when they hear the word trainee, they probably think, oh no, I'm going to be earning very small amounts of money for long periods of time. Do you know roughly what the earning potential someone could have in year 1, year 2, year 3 would be in a position like the trainee wealth manager role?
Yeah, I mean, again, it depends on sort of, I think, you as a person, what you want to get out of it. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, it's down to you. I mean, if you were to throw a figure out there, you could be certainly earning 6 figures quite easily. But, when I say quite easily, that comes down to you as a person, that you really want to do that. But if you put the work in, it's certainly there to be had.
Realistically, when you say putting the work in, tell us a little bit about you and your work ethic.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, when I started in the role, quite simply, I wanted to be sort of, one of the guys who were sort of up there, to be put really simply. I looked at Rav, who was in my role at the time. Kane, of course, who's been in the role for sort of quite a few years now, probably one of the most successful guys. I think Charlie as well, he was in my role. And I walked into that role going, okay, what are these guys doing differently to everyone else? And quite simply, it was work ethic. It was looking at everyone's leaving at 5:30, or well, not everyone, there's a percentage of people who do leave at 5:30. Incredibly, they've worked very hard in that time period, but it's putting that extra in to get what you want to get out of it in a way. And, you'd look at the guys and they'd be there till 7:30, 8:00, 9:00. And I just quite simply mirrored that. I was like, okay, that's what I want to do. How do I do that? Well, let's start at ground zero and let's just match their work ethic and the rest will come. So my day varies. I do try and structure it in a way so you don't get burnout because, you quite simply can. And I'll come in on a Monday. Generally, we start at 8:15, start officially at 8:30. And then I generally stay to sort of, 8, 8:30 generally is the case. Standard hours is 8:30 to 5:30. And then we'll structure it in a way so Tuesday we'll stay quite late. Wednesday, always do a bit earlier, get a bit of time down at the beach in the evening. And then, same again Thursday and Friday. We finish sort of quite nicely at 5:00 to make most of the weekend. But it is one of them you've got to put in hard work. It's really simple when it comes to that.
Okay, cool. So there's no myth around that. That is what you've experienced and that's what you've
100%,
seen.
yeah. Right. And I mean, I think if you really do want to do something, no matter what it is, you have to put in hard work. It's not one of those things where you come in and, you start here, finish here. If you do want to do well in this role, it is hard work, but the rewards from that certainly do make it worth the while.
Yeah, but also your knowledge, right? And the habits that you're building in how you work, how you approach work, and the investment, I suppose, in yourself at that point in time is only going to pay dividends to you in, say, 10 years' time when you are building a really great book of business and you are, how old are you now?
20, I had to think about that one, 27, 28 next week.
28, man. So, let's look, if you were 35 years old, working for Hoxton Wealth, and you made the decision that you were you're going down the route of actually becoming a financial planner within the business. At 35 years old, right, at Hoxton Wealth, based on the experience and the knowledge that you've gained now, you're going to be absolutely bossing it at that point. And I think that's one of the things that people need to think about. It's like you could be bossing it by 30 years old as a financial planner if you go on the right training and development pathway.
Yeah.
And you're putting the right energy and effort in at the very, very beginning in the things that are going to pay you dividends in the future.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. I mean, it's like you say, it's carrying on that transition. It's not one of those things where you put in, the work for 6 months, a year, and think, right, okay, I've done my job now. It is one of those things where it does take time, 100%. But like you say, by the age of 30, 35, you can be in a very nice position. And also as well, the thing is with Hoxton, and what I like about Hoxton compared to previous roles is I can pretty much work from anywhere in the world. Of course, we're based in Dubai, fantastic place, but we have offices in most jurisdictions. And, if we want to, there's an option there to transition. And I think that's really nice as well, that you've got the ability to do that there.
Well, interestingly, we are going to be opening up an office in Panama.
So I've heard.
Yeah.
So I've heard.
What a cool place to go and work.
Very cool.
Yeah. Really, really cool. That's really good. So there is a new kid on the block, though, apparently, that's giving you a bit of a run for your money. Can you tell us a little bit about who that is?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. It's my brother.
Yeah.
It's my brother. Yeah. So he's only 18.
Yeah.
So a lot younger than me. I think he's one of sort of the youngest ones I've had in the office to actually start. But yeah, no, he's very similar to me. I mean, to give you a little bit of background to my brother, 18 years old, finished school and he had a very one-track mindset like me at the time. All I wanted to do was helicopters. All he wanted to do is be a professional golfer. And I think what he did with golf has really helped him with Hoxton, which we'll come on to. But, he had a very sort of longevity mindset when it came to the golf. He saw what other people were doing and he'd go, okay, well, how can I better myself to sort of, really excel at what I want to do here? He'd finish, as we all know, the early nights in the UK, what we're certainly starting to see at the moment, 4, 5 o'clock, dark nights would come in the middle of the winter. I certainly couldn't do it, but he'd be there on the putting green, have flashlights. Everyone else was at home. He was just there putting all night. And yeah, it paid off. He was absolutely incredible at golf from a very, very young age, but I just don't think he was seeing the progression as of to now where he wanted to get. I got a phone call off him and he says, can I come and move to Dubai with you? And I said, well, hold on. What do you mean here? And he says, well, look, can I do some work experience with you? I find it really interesting what you do. I'm going to play some golf. Could I just come and do a little bit of work experience? So I gave Jaap Hall a call. I said, look, a little bit of a different sort of question I've got for you here now. I said, my brother, who you've met before, when we've all played golf before, is there any chance he could just come and do a little bit of work experience with us? And Jake goes, well, if he's a little bit like you, like in regards to sort of mindset, he said, bring him on full time. And I spoke to Al, I said, look, there could be an option here. And I said, look, take your time, have a think about it. You're young, you're 18. And he went for his interviews, started 3 weeks ago, and he's doing insane. But no, really proud of him. He's doing really well.
That's amazing. So when you say he's doing insane, like, give us some perspective on that. Yeah,
I mean, in regards to sort of, he's very junior in the role. So, a lot of the role, I think, when you are very junior is prospecting. It's speaking to potential clients, speaking to clients who are in the process of becoming a client. And I think he's just really picked up the role from ground one. We have been in there late nights till 11 o'clock each night doing training and everything together. But he's just picked up the role. He's really sort of, seeing that progression of, building a sort of, a longevity role of potential clients. We'll probably come on to that later when it comes to sort of, how we speak to our clients. But, he's doing really well of sort of, helping them understand how we can possibly help them from sort of, a very junior ground zero position.
Well, I was at the team meeting last week and I think he booked the most appointments. So obviously big part of the job role is to go through existing clients, to go through the leads that are coming in and all the methods that we have for attracting clients.
That's right.
We do exceptionally well through our marketing. We've got really great marketing. But we need somebody to turn some of those stones over to have those conversations with people. If someone's shown an interest in a 401k transfer into an IRA, we need someone to pick the phone up and actually speak to that person. But he booked the most appointments. Didn't he say I want to carry on. It was Friday, and he was like, I want to carry on because I want to hit this figure. He'd already smashed everybody. And you had to literally drag him out there.
Yeah, no, it's right. He goes, right. He says, I said, right, you're done for the day now. So you've had an insane week.
Yeah.
And he's like, no. He said, I need to do a couple more. I said, Al, I said, we're going to go for food. Yeah. I said, carry on next week now. But no, and that again goes back to his golf. That's how he was with his golf. And I think that'll really show through with Hoxton as well.
I was doing a bit of work recently about how we identify those traits within people that are coming into that role. And I think it's hugely important. And we all came to the conclusion that people that tend to work hard on something of a passion when they're younger, it transfers beautifully across into a job where it is quite target driven. Yeah. Right. And you have to be motivated and have to have the right mindset, and you have to have that strength of mind to realize that you have to overcome challenges every single second of the day, and that you don't just give in, or you don't sort of lean into that fear-based mindset, that you've got that growth mindset, that need to achieve, not the need to avoid failure. Yeah. I think sport does that really, really, really well. I also think, like, with your experience, like, you had a clear goal, you wanted to be a pilot. Right?
Yeah, no, that was it.
Yeah, you were like probably obsessed about it. Yeah. And like for you to actually have done that, if you walked into an interview with me and you told me that this was my goal when I was younger, this is what I wanted to achieve, and I flew around Sydney Harbour, I'd be like, holy shit, like you are 100% the type of person that we want, because you can clearly visualize something, can make it happen. Yeah, yeah. It's funny, isn't it? You visualize things. I do it a lot. Like, you see my recent Hoxton Life documentary I'd done, right, with Michael Yule in France?
Yes, I did see that, yeah.
I visualized that before I even worked for Hoxton.
Right, yeah.
So I knew that I was doing that. I was planning that years ago. Yeah. So for me to come in, and to be able to make the vision that I had, the thing that I was manifesting a reality, I owe that to the growth mindset environment of Hoxton, right? But just to be able to know that I can deliver on it with a kind of obsessive mind. Yeah, yeah. Right? Because I'm trying to convince somebody to spend a load of money on a video and why you should do it. I like that, visualizing something and making it happen. For me, if you visualize it and you fix it becomes a fixed goal in your head, you almost clearly see it. Does it happen to you? You can literally see it play out in your mind in front of you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm big on visualizing things. You know, it's how I learn when it comes to sort of, any form of study. I'm very, very big on visualizing. Right. I mean, I think we spoke about it before when it comes to sort of targets. Again, I like to have that as a visual, this is where I want to get to. Yeah. And, again, that comes down to visualizing it. And also as well, Hoxton do very much sort of promote that, I think. I think we've got team leaders meeting next week to sort of, help the guys in regards to visualizing what they want is sort of, their end goals for the year. And that doesn't mean monetary goals, it means sort of, what you want in life, really, what you want for sort of, yourself when it comes to sort of your career prospects. It's not all monetary based. Hoxton's certainly not about that. It's about sort of helping you get where you really want to be. And again, that comes down to visualizing it, writing it down, saying, okay, how we're going to get there, breaking it down. And I couldn't agree more when it comes to that.
What are some of your biggest personal goals then at the moment, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I think sort of in regards to career based, it's certainly in regards to making that transition to an advisor. As I said, I'm currently studying for my Series 65. Once that is then passed, it is just then to sort of start really understanding that role and starting to sort of transition into it from trainee wealth manager to trainee advisor, basically. And then also, I mean, outside of work, I mean, for me, it's just sort of building again, a long-lasting career and relationship when it comes to company. And, making something that, you're going to be proud of in years and years to come. I generally do see it as building your own business. Yeah. And I think if you have that mindset of you're building your own business within a business, that's where you do really sort of, nurture it, treat it like it's your own in a way, which I think is where it does then excel.
So you love mentoring, you love training, and you love developing people. You're working in essentially a team leader role.
Yeah, that's right.
And you're doing that and supporting and helping people run through the business. What type of people is it the new people that are coming through? Or
it's a mix. I mean, we've got 4 teams with Kane. So we've got myself, Jack, Tom and Kane. So we have teams of sort of, the BDMs between us. And it's a mix, really. I have guys who've just come in. I have guys who've been there for sort of, a number of years. And the reason really for that role is just to sort of show them how we can sort of, really excel in the role. They're all doing very well, that they're very good at what they do. But I think it's sort of, show them, okay, well, we can always better ourselves. And, how can we better ourselves to get where you want to be in regards to sort of your goals, your aspirations. So, that, I think we've got a meeting today actually. So, one of the meetings today is about sort of actually just going over training in regards to prospecting, how we speak to clients on certain, let's say, topic areas to sort of have that knowledge to help them really understand that. And then I think next week, we're going to go into more sort of target sort of goals for, as I say, end of year, next year. And I say, it's not always monetary. It's very much in regards to sort of, helping you get where you want to get to in your careers. But no, I love helping people. I think sort of, it's like giving, receiving a gift. I think it's always one of those things, isn't it? When you actually give a gift, it means a lot more. And I think, building that relationship with the teams and, seeing sort of them prosper, them sort of really building their careers, that's really nice to see if you can sort of, be a small part of that.
Brilliant. I absolutely love that. Giving back to others is a massive one for me. The reason why I got into podcasting and stuff, because it's the educational piece of giving back to others who don't quite know enough about the financial planning profession, for example, or how to get over a specific hurdle. It might be somebody who's thinking about changing their career, or it could be somebody that is looking to move from power planning or into financial advice, or an employed advisor into self-employed. So for me to ask the questions, for my audience to hear, that might spark something in them that pushes them forward. The gift of giving is great.
Yeah.
And also I always find as well, it's about being inquisitive and curious. I think if somebody's struggling on something, I have this need and want to fix it for them. I like fixing things.
Yeah.
I like also helping somebody understand what part of self is actually blocking them off from the version of self that they can actually be. Because often it's just a lie that we tell ourselves in our head. This idea that we can't do something or it's too hard. And it's like challenge. And I find that if you're a coach or if you're a mentor, when you recognize that in others, it's easier to then recognize it in yourself.
That's right.
You definitely change when you change somebody else. I've always really thoroughly enjoyed that. On the other flip side of it, I also feel it's important that for our own personal progression that we're mentored as well. You can't always
100%.
give to others. You also need to be tapping into somebody else who's mentoring you, and the cycle goes on and on and on. How do you find that? Have you got people around you that are mentoring, training, developing you, and helping you get through those challenges within the business?
I think from when I started with Hoxton, a really good sort of, let's say, sort of company ethos is helping people. It's very big for that. It is a large company. We have a lot of people in our device, 150, 200 people. You would think that it could be very sort of self-centered, that, you have your own job to do that day. And look, I do not have time for this. But you can pretty much walk to anyone in that office and say, look, would you mind giving me a hand with this? And they will 100% say yes. And I think that's a thing that Chris, the team, have sort of built from ground zero, to have sort of that ethos that, we're there to help each other. And that's how we really grow as a team. So everyone in that office will help you. In regards to myself, I've got Jaap Hall. So he's been sort of my advisor, who I've worked with from day one. And there's a number of guys in there, there to help you. We have weekly training. I know some training starting next week with advisors on, let's say, sort of certain areas of advice that we can help people with. So whether that's 401ks, pensions, investments, to sort of, really help gain our knowledge on that. And, you can never have enough knowledge. You're always growing, you're always learning. I think, the company's very good to understand that.
Fantastic. And just finally, to give the listeners an insight and an understanding into the types of clients that you are approaching, because the world's a small place, but it's also a very big place. Right? When you're picking up a telephone and making phone calls to people, marketing to people to try and get them in as leads, right? So what type of client are you actually focused on? Which locations are you focused on? You're in Dubai. Do you just look at Dubai, or do you look at the UK, USA, India, all these other areas, Australia that we're in? Just so someone, when they come into the business, they understand really how they would structure their day and the types of client that they would be talking to.
Yeah, no, that's right. So as you know, Hoxton is an internationally regulated company. We have regulation in the UK, the US, Australia, GCC, Europe. So, we can provide advice in most jurisdictions worldwide. So, if you want to focus on a certain area, you can, quite simply. In regards to myself, I structure my day in a way where we take advantage of the mornings. So, we may speak to people in Australia, we may speak to people in Asia. Then we'll structure the day to the afternoons where we'll be speaking to people locally, GCC based. Of course, Saudi at the moment, is a very big opportunity for people who are moving there and company as well. We're able to help a lot of people in Saudi at the moment because I think a lot of the people who've moved to Saudi have never lived overseas before. Saudi's a rapidly developing country, so they're bringing in a lot of people from the likes of Europe, UK, US, and we speak to a lot of people over there. And then also as well, leading back to sort of, later in the day, again, we speak to people back in the UK, although, we are based overseas, and in Europe as well. So it's just structuring your day to get the most out of it. But, it depends where those leads come from. I mean, we are pretty much inundated with leads. We do get a lot of leads into the company. And it depends on sort of, where you are focusing. But for myself, it's generally GCC, Europe, and a little bit of sort of the US.
Fantastic. So brilliant. Well, listen, thanks for sharing your career journey with us so far here at Hoxton. I think you're just really at the beginning, but what you've done so far is immense. So
thank you.
The future's only going to look really, really bright for you. And I just imagine the amount of people I've spoken to in my time, 16 years of working in the financial planning profession. You strike me as somebody who's got their head completely switched on, they're focused in the absolute right place and the right mindset. I've got no doubt, mate, that you're going to be an absolute huge success. And I think a lot of the people that you support around you are going to do that as well. So your brother's really lucky, I think, to have you as a mentor. Just remember, everything you're doing right now in this business is having a beautiful knock-on effect with everybody around them. So really, really loved hearing your story. It's positive. It's exactly the type of people I want to be around and exactly the type of people that we want to attract to this business and grow. Yeah, no, exactly that, isn't it? I mean, I think, as you say, Hoxton, it's very good in sort of, helping people sort of, grow for their career prospects. And like I say, I think what we want as a company is to see everyone succeed in a way and, the company as well. So, thanks for having us. Spot on. Thanks, Sam. Cheers, Oliver.